Hi everyone, let's see if this works now. This is the second time I'm recording most of this. It took me a while into the recording last time to realize that the microphone wasn't coming out of the right source, so it wasn't working properly. But I'm Saul Sunforge online, offline. I'm also known as Chad Reed. That's my real name. How's everybody doing? Appreciate you all coming out and showing up and looking at my videos. I think it's very awesome that I constantly have people watching, and I appreciate every single one of you. And if you're new here and you're not subscribed and you do enjoy my video content, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I love watching my subscriber base grow, and it makes me feel better. You know, Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop in general is a very, very interesting hobby because it can be as simple as you want it to be, or it can be as complex and as intricate as you could possibly think of to make it. As long as time allows you to have the time to create that, you're able to. And there's a lot of things on the Dungeon Master's plate. You know, you have to remember everybody's skills generally. After a while, you'll pick them up. Turn order. You have to remember your enemies, their abilities, your NPCs, their names to even be consistent with that. And you have to try to take notes in the meantime while everything else is going on. It's a lot of work. It's rewarding work, but it for sure is work. It's much harder to be a dungeon master than to just show up as a player. But one thing I feel like um, new and perspective dungeon masters should remember and realize is pacing. Now, at least in my opinion, your players they show up knowing that Dungeons and Dragons or the equivalent of whatever game you're playing um, is, you know, the expectation is that you're playing a game. Everybody around the table understands this. They know this. You come together with the appreciation that you're all going to be playing in the same game. But with Dungeons and Dragons or whatever tabletop you prefer, there's a lot of options available, and everybody who's playing throws in different elements and different factors, and maybe even different situations into the mix that may not have even occurred if they weren't there. So that's part of the fun aspect of it is, you never know what you're going to get depending on what variables you change. It's always going to be different. And that's why the game is so fun to play, because it will never, ever be the same. Even if you play the same exact class and call them the same exact thing, you're still not going to be playing with the same exact people or have the same DM or run the same campaign. It's going to all be different. But as a DM, you have a propensity to want to push the action forward, and so you kind of try to usher the players from set piece moment to set piece moment, and then so they could go ooh ah wow, and and move on. But sometimes, as the dungeon master, you need to know when to allow your players to explore that space. Uh, you know, you need to kind of sit back and be quiet a bit and listen and observe what your players do and what your players like, and some of the things that interest them, and keep an eye on your world building as they're stating these things to you, so you could use some of these things later on. And even though your players mentioned them before, they're going to be surprised that you remembered to bring it back up. Something that might be insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but you remembered. And so, you know, those are good things to focus your attention and time on. But pacing, if you allow your players to establish the pacing, it gives you more time even to prepare other things that you may want to get done. So if you allow your players to go off in a different direction, then the campaign doesn't necessarily need to be point A, B, C. It could be A, C, back to B, back to A, then to D, back to A. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of got to give your players that type of freedom to do that type of stuff. You don't have to rush through absolutely everything, but at the same time, you do want to give your players some senses of urgency. You don't want to always give your players free time just to do whatever, and you don't at the same sentence on the opposite side. You don't want to always give your players motivations to constantly keep hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, because it doesn't really make much sense. My players, their pacing keeps going back and forth, but they're doing that themselves. Um, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. But you should want your players to advance, but you shouldn't want them to feel like they're being rushed through the content. You should want them to enjoy the content. And if you make your content so it could be used for several sessions, possibly, as your players are role playing or what have you in a certain scenario or a combat / role playing that takes place, and you can make these things last 2 or 3 sessions. Well, then you're able to prepare other things for in the future in other areas, and that's how you get your prep time. So you don't feel like it's always such a struggle. So give your players quests and objectives that they have to complete within a certain amount of allotted time inside the game, and you can even give them, perhaps opposing objectives or opposing parts of the world, or they'll only be able to get to one and not the other one, and so they have to make a choice, and then make those choices matter. Don't make it the same result based off of either one. That illusion of choice nonsense, frankly, it really irritates me. I don't do it, and I don't recommend you do it either. I know some of the better DMs out there, the more recognizable ones at least, say to do that, and sometimes it's fine to do, but generally don't do that illusion of choice where, they chose Tower of blah, blah, blah instead of blah, blah, blah tower. And so you moved one to where the other one was because it was ready to go. And I don't know. Just, don't do that stuff too much. Now, this point will tie in with the last point, and I'm going to bring up my players because I said I was going to earlier in the video, and so we're going to go ahead and use a situation from within my campaign in order to illustrate to you some of my points that I was making. So there is currently a war going on in my campaign world. The undead from the lost city of Corvallis have flooded in. They flooded in through. I'm having a blank now. Mordavia. They flooded in through Mordavia. There we go. I kept wanting to say Barovia, but don't come after me, wizards. Jesus. So yeah, the undead came in through Mordavia because a ancient white dragon was slain, and that white dragon, his regional effect was these large, glacial fields, and the glaciers were most, assuredly blocking these undead from coming in. And so, some of them trickled in, the valley still had some undead in it, but not very many. And they were mostly taken care of by the local watch and, garrison and things like that. Well, the white dragon was slain, and so all these undead over generations and generations that have spilled in because the portal for the Shadowfell is also located over there, one of the portals. And so undead were coming in through the Shadowfell portal, and adventurers were trying to they were trying to land there by ship on the Cape to fight their way in, and they would get overrun. Their ships would get overrun, and get destroyed or whatnot, or they get stranded. Like a whole bunch of things happen over there, and not really trying to focus on that, although that it's all cool stuff, I think. But so it created this massive force of undead. That this dragon was ironically terrorizing the people of Mordavia, and as well as their, unbeknownst to him, really their savior. Because the longer he existed, the stronger and more reinforced and plentiful these glaciers have become, right? So when he expired, all the undead forces, and the big BEG is the one responsible for killing this dragon. It allowed all these undead forces to come in through Mordavia and just completely lay low to the land. A lot of the areas that didn't have, gating and things like that, and even ones that did, were just completely just obliterated, because there was just so many undead. The dwarves of Stonegate, as far as the party knows and everything, is they're still on the march to meet some of the undead forces, and there's a necromancer involved, and she's going to control some of them from the mountaintop. And these are things that the group all decided with these NPCs. They had a court a court meeting. The king King of Coventry held court, and these plans were all discussed. You can watch that episode. It's probably somewhere in the 20s or so. But so all these events are going on, okay, and then the party decided what fronts they were going to go to in order to help battle this undead army, descending upon them and just laying entire cities to the dirt. They picked their ways that they're going to go. They draw an intricate battle map. Here's Destination 1. They did all the way up until, I think, like 11. Like, their objectives that they were going to do, right? And so I started planning all these things out and everything like that. Well, they happened to, in the process of going to where they were going, coming across a random encounter. Well, it happened to be a gnome that was out fishing, and there was a bunch of basilisks on the shore, trying to nip at him. And he was stuck in the middle of this pond, right? And the basilisks were surrounding him, basically toying with him, because they could swim in this water easily. And he was trying to shrug him off with his fishing pole. Well, the party came across him, and they helped him out and everything like that. And this, scenario was kind of set up for him to find eventually. It just happened to be the random encounter was at this time. Well, this gnome that they rescued happened to be Garl Glittergold. And along with Shatik or Fastpaws, I think it's a dire raccoon, Garl leads them to the gnome city of Tralala, and there they find out that there's something called the Tree of Traversal, and it brings them to where they want to go the most, but it's kind of broken. It's, there's undead forces or whatever from the other side, because the other side's actually in the lost city of Corvallis. But it's affecting the tree, so the group goes in, they free up the tree from that side, from the Tralala side, and then they go where they want to go. Well, they chose to go to Dahlia Carnassus because the doctor she really wants the box, And so the war efforts that they were going to do, unfortunately, were just kind of put on the back burner. And the way video games do it is they allow it to happen. They allow people to just change time-sensitive objectives like that, objectives that should be time-sensitive. And you could just go resume it, go back to it at any point in the future. even absurdly comically into the future. And so, as a dungeon master, you need to remember that you need to keep things rolling. And those events from that war, that possible multiple stage war, it's just an incursion at this point. But those need to still carry on. Everything that was going to happen still needs to happen. And if the big strong party is not there to stop it, well, then, that's when you get to go and destroy pieces of your world and, maybe rebuild them up later on or something like that. And that event can take place in the campaign, and the party can see the world getting the settlement starting up from nothing, being rebuilt. The party might even be able to help in the rebuilding process with giving supplies or actually, building the stuff that itself, actually doing the work and meeting NPCs. And you could branch out a whole lot from a lot of these events. So don't think that you keeping these events going, even when the party forgets about them or decides to go off and do something else or whatever, don't be afraid to keep these events going and then deal with those consequences, or rather the party deals with those consequences once they're done. I'm Saul Sunforge. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. My voice is starting to go. I gotta get going. I want to get writing. I've been doing a lot of writing for Resnium. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and so I'm actually starting to run behind on my videos. This video is going to be it's going to be current. It's not going to be in a little catalog of videos waiting for your viewership. So I need to get back to making 10, 15 videos and ready in the chamber to go. So this way I can keep writing. But I'm just having such a great time writing Resnium. And if you don't know what Resnium is, it's my own game system. I decided to make my own game system. I probably talked about it way too soon, but I was really excited. Excuse me. It's just me working on it for right now. I am getting some creative input here and there, random one-off inputs, but it's going at a good pace, and I'm not going to try to talk about it too much until it's more ready, or at least until I have a Kickstarter or something like that to be able to present to you. And I have to go through the copyright stuff, and I want to make sure that everything's good to go, and I want to make sure that I'm not inadvertently taking anybody else's content. I need to make sure there's no OGL, nothing to do with OGL, anything in it. But it's a process for sure. But I'm trying to keep up with multiple things. I'm juggling multiple things, all for you and for your entertainment and for your enjoyment. So, and if you appreciate that, hit that subscribe button. I'm Saul Sunforge. Thank you for watching my videos. I appreciate you. I love you all. See you with the next one. Bye-bye.